Welcome back to the last Daily Rundown of the week. I'm Dan Morfitt, and with me are guests Jacob Braden and Maddie Howard. On to our next story now. Department store BHS will be wound down with the loss of up to 11,000 jobs after efforts to find a buyer for it failed. All 163 British home stores will be closing down over the next few weeks and having closing down sales. It's the biggest retail collapse since Woolworths back in 2008. This follows the news earlier this week that Austin Reed has got into administration too. So the face of the high street is changing. Who's to go next, Maddie? Who is going to disappear off the great British high street?
After BHS?
Yeah, because BHS is going to leave a pretty big hole.
Is it?
Well, in certain shopping centres, I think it's the entrance and exit. But did you ever shop at BHS?
Never. I've never been there and I couldn't even remember what it was supposed to sell. I assumed it was a department store. However, I was actually going to go in the other day and I just thought, no, it doesn't look like there's anything in here. I walked in and I walked back out. True story.
And you would be the future of their custom. Sadly, there isn't any future for BHS anymore. Jacob, were you a keen shopper at the British home stores?
Not really. I think I might have browsed them once or twice and perhaps bought one or two little things now and then, but I think you've quite rightly identified what their problem is. The younger generation of shoppers, then why am I going to go in there and shop?
It's like, it was a department store. It is a department store, a bit like Debenhams, probably around the Debenhams way. It's not like John Lewis, it's not Selfridges, which is sort of the highest end, but it was around that type of thing. It was a bit like Henry's Cats. It did everything. It knew everything about nothing and not so much about that.
The one I went in had a cafe in it, and I found it a bit confusing. I could tell it was quite an old building, so maybe the shop had been there for quite a while, and it was an old sort of layout and design. It kind of reminded me of maybe sort of, I don't know, a charity shop or something, but then there was a cafe. That's not an insult, I'm just saying. But with the way everything was arranged, it was just all a bit here and there, and there was a random cafe, and it was just all a bit confusing. So I think they probably tried really hard to save themselves and still couldn't manage it.
I think you've hit the nail on the head.
Yeah.
That's what the problem is, you go into John Lewis, it's all very nicely laid out and beautiful things. It's expensive, but we do price match, so you go into Debenhams and it's all separated out. So you got in the menswear, you got like Ben Sherman and all different places, so you know what's
Henry
there.
Holland and stuff like that.
So it's like, why would you go to British home stores? I don't know who's going to be next. I doubt there will be anyone next for a while, because this is a big British.
It's an
institution going, and I think really the market has been whittled down as much as it possibly can be for now. I'm sure there probably will be someone else in a year or two's time, but I think now the wheat has been separated from the chaff, so to speak, as in terms of the market has spoken.
So you just think that this is the market working as it should, and sadly...
Not maybe as it should. I think, there's arguments for intervention, isn't there? But then you've got the added issue of the pensions and the guy taking over and financial mismanagement and all of this as well that has taken place, which hasn't helped. But I think it was coming. Sadly, I do believe it was coming, because it was, as you identified, it's what is it? Why would I go and shop there? What are you going to bring me into your shop with? Stuff that I can get elsewhere for cheaper or nicer or more upmarket.
I can't remember the last TV ad campaign, or I don't know the world we live in. I don't know which celebrities or which models are associated with which store, while at the same time M&S, Debenhams, John Lewis all have a concerted individual known TV campaign that they're almost more famous for than the stores themselves. With this, we've got to think about the 11,000 people losing their jobs, the people whose pensions are at risk because, as you said, there's not enough money to pay for them. Do you think they just didn't get anything right in the last few years? We could mention other high street traders like Next, who have brought in that thing where you can order something online the night before and it'll get delivered first thing in the morning. And some brands like John Lewis going a little bit posher. Other brands have got ready for the internet more. Other brands have got ready with their brands in-house a little bit more. Do you think BHS were just left behind?
I think that. And I think marketing, for instance, it's not as much of a sort of evil as it was seen as in the 20th century. Now it's a necessity. And they didn't really do any marketing, not anything crucial enough. And you're right, an online presence, that's not an option if you're fancy. That's something you absolutely need to have if you have any type of business and you want it to survive. You need to be found on, you know, Google, and you need social media presence. And you're right, you need some advertising. Because it wasn't even on my radar, and my head's so full of all these other brands and all these other campaigns. You know, a 24-year-old, I had no idea what it was, but I had a feeling that I should have. You know, like maybe I did when I was younger. Yeah. Maybe I've been in there before.
And in the you know, realm of retail and virtually everywhere else, perception is the reality. And they just, by the sounds of it, had no perception whatsoever with shoppers.
Yeah, if you'd been born 10 years earlier than you had, or 15 years earlier than then, likely you would have been dragged around British home stores on a Saturday morning by your mum or your gran or somebody to have a look around and do some shopping. And it isn't the time for it anymore. And as you said, you've got to have marketing, but also you've got to have a unique selling point, haven't you? You've got something that's unique to your store that brings people in to browse and buy and do stuff like that. And they didn't, and they failed. And I think that when they unpick the bones, there's going to be some failures that are going to be identified, but are quite catastrophic in terms of professional culpability and stuff like that. In terms of
it might be a textbook
really
in the future
mistakes
of how not to run a van.
Yeah, you know.
Well, we think about those people that have lost their jobs from BHS, and that story might rumble on as the closing down sale starts soon. Right, our next story is about Nigel Farage. He might get another chance to win the Westminster seat he contested at the general election. A judge suggested that the result could be declared void. The Tories tried to block Kent's police from extending their investigation into whether the party broke election spending limits in the South Thanet seat during the general election. So is this just the tip of the iceberg with the Tory election spending scandal? Or is this the very first you've heard about it?
It is. Tonight.
That's strange, isn't it?
Yeah, it is.
Maddie, is this the first time you've heard about the Tory election scandal?
With regards to campaigning?
Yeah.
Yes.
This is the first time anybody's heard about it?
Not tonight, it's not. No,
not tonight,
I've heard about it before. It is the tip of the iceberg, and as I believe it, they tried to block a investigation and they got thrown out. So it's interesting times ahead, because if they are found guilty, there will need to be elections in every single one of those seats.
And there's lots of seats.
Yes, so feasibly, they could lose their majority. At the time, there's going to be a European election. It's very interesting times. I would imagine there are probably quite a few Conservative MPs who are rather nervous right now.
And throwing that into question with supposedly a letter of no confidence being sent to the Prime Minister this week by a number of backbenchers and also the prominent members of the party, we might be seeing changes soon. Do you know about this Tory election overspending possibly in the last general election? It's currently under investigation by the police, so we can't say too much of it. But by the looks of it, the national press really haven't run with the story. The only person that's really going for it is Michael Crick from Channel 4 News. And he's looking in an individual basis, almost forensic, to see the spending of the Tory party in certain key election battlefields from the last election. This is quite serious. When
it comes to this particular area and the fact that, was there a possibility of Nigel Farage being elected there?
It was very, very slim that he lost by. The Tories held onto that seat. But it could be shown that the Tories may be overspent in South Thanet, so they might have been able to spend more money on publications. They might have been spending, I think, money on hotels for volunteers to go into an area and sort of door knock and flood the area with information.
And employing people as well. There's people coming forward saying that there were jobs in the job centre and they didn't say what they were doing. And then when they rang up, it was out delivering leaflets and campaigning for the Conservatives, and they have very strict guidelines about how much they can spend and what they spent it on. And apparently, they've broken the rules they have.
And I believe there's rules as well
rules.
about employing people that have to be party members or party activists.
Yeah.
It's going to get very, very interesting, but I think what's more interesting is that the papers aren't picking up on it.
Like they're not picking up on a lot of things that they're doing, and it's a house of cards really, because it's multiple things. It could be potentially the perfect storm that destroys the Conservative Party in regards to so many things happening all at the same time. It's like this, the Euro vote, other stuff happening, the no confidence vote, and them not being able to cope with it.
In any other country, this would be a major scandal, but it's not really hit the front pages yet. And if this is the first time you've really heard about it tonight, are you angry?
I'm not shocked.
Is that worse than not being angry? Because if it's just like it's almost as if there's a collective shrug of the shoulders going, really? Yeah. We're not surprised.
To be honest, most of the Conservative government's decisions make me pretty angry. But this one less so, because as much as it's not ethical, neither is Nigel Farage or UKIP. So, in this particular unique case, am I devastated? No, not really.
The interesting point will be how many Conservatives with loose kind of power movements and nervous dispositions are going to jump ship to another political party.
Depending on what else happens in the next few weeks. Yeah. It's all very interesting, isn't it? We'll keep you updated on the Daily Rundown with the Tory election spending scandal as it continues, and I think it will. Right, it's time for another break now on the Daily Rundown. Next, we'll look at older drivers and we'll feel the fibre of your fabric. See you in a bit. Keep it on Channel 7.